your behavior, and if you are untrustworthy to the government. So if you don't obey the government, then you're deemed untrustworthy, and therefore your credit score will drop, and so then you can't participate in the society. So but also, the government needs to be put in check. They do not have the authority over us as individuals to track everything we do and to have access with all of our data, which is why we need to be conscious consumers and conscious beings and be aware of how much data and freedom we're giving up to people as they track our every movement. Because these big techs and these governments and these big corporations, they're working together. And the only way we stay free is to limit their power, to limit their scope and their ability to access our information. And it's very, very important. And that's why our founders knew they're brilliant, and we are not the smartest beings. Just because we're in 2021 and we have nice computers and phones and access to information does not mean we are wise. Our founding fathers were wise, and they were very specific with their terminology and their verbiage. And the Bill of Rights and the Constitution were put and formulated to restrict the powers of the government, not to restrict the powers of the individuals in the population. And that's something we need to be reminded of, and that we need to remind our politicians of. So I wanted to compare what's going on in Australia and because there's been conversations like that in America too. So, coming to a liberal country near you, I wanted to compare that now to see the parallels of what goes on in China and their social credit system and their overall police state. So this is from Business Insider in 2021. China's social credit system ranks citizens and punishes them with throttled internet speeds and flight bans, and the Communist Party deems them untrustworthy. In 2014, the social credit system is an important component part of the socialist market economy system that the social government system. So what China does is they rank their citizens. And mind you, they have cameras all over their country where they have facial recognition, which is why I don't know why people do their facial recognition on their phones and cameras. I put the sticker on my camera or on my computer, and I would never open my phone with facial recognition, so they can just have your facial recognition. You guys, start looking into the future, not just one step at a time. It's just more convenient. I just gotta look at my phone rather than going do 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 do. You guys are crazy. You're crazy. But in China, they literally have cameras where they can see people. You walk down the street, they know who you are, and they're implementing right now. It's voluntary, but it's going to be mandatory, and they're implementing it through different segments of the economy. They have it through the private sector, and then they have it through the governmental sector, and overall they're going to eventually have one credit score that the government is going to have control over, and that's how they're going to control every aspect of your life. Because it's not just like a credit score, like your financial decisions. It's your credit score, your payments, your behavior, and if you are untrustworthy to the government. So if you don't obey the government, then you're deemed untrustworthy, and therefore your credit score will drop, and so then you can't participate in the society. So that's what I predict is coming to a liberal country near you, because the left always goes so far left that they destroy everything. So let's get into a little bit more information on what the China credit score is. So at the moment, like I said, the system is voluntary, though the plan is for it to eventually be mandatory and unified across the nation, with each person given their own unique code used to measure their social credit score in real time. The exact methodology is a secret, but examples of infractions include bad driving, smoking in non-smoking zones, buying too many video games, and posting fake news online, specifically about terrorist attacks or airport security. So if you were a bad driver or you do anything, well, they can just ding your social credit score. And then other potential punishable offenses include spending too long playing video games, wasting money on frivolous purchases, and posting on social media. And China has already started punishing people by restricting their travel, including banning them from flights. Authorities banned people from purchasing flights 17.5 million times by the end of 2018, according to the National Public Credit Information Center, as The Guardian reported. 17.5 million times. They've also been barred getting business class tickets, and some are kept out of the best hotels. So I'm just going to give you an example. Let's say you lost your job, so you're unable to pay one of your bills, you're behind on your bills, ding, ding, you lost your job, ding, you can't pay your bills, ding. This is all lowering your credit score. Well, now you can't fly. So you might have had a job interview, but now you can't fly to it. Oh, and you can't rent a car now either because your social credit score is too low. They won't rent you a car and you can't fly. How the hell are you supposed to then get a job and get your life back together and live your life? The government has no authority to deem who's fit and unfit. And once you allow the government to deem who's fit and unfit to participate in civil society, there's those who are okay and that they can live, this obviously isn't freely, but live their lives according to the government's rules and regulations. And then there's those who are unfit and are dehumanized. And what do they do with those people? If history tells us anything, it's not good for those people. For the people that are not trustworthy to the government and they don't obey, they will be gone, honestly. And then, so it continues by saying, at the end of July 2018, so this was another example. The Chinese university denied an incoming student his spot because the student's father had a bad social credit score. So not only was the father probably having issues living life according to his credit score, now his child is. And it reminded me when I was reading this like group association, this group punishment that we see today in America, that people today should be held accountable for the sins of our past of slavery, that because I'm white, I should have white guilt for the past of people that I have never met and I had no actions or didn't play any part in. I should be like punished for that. And it reminds me of Yeonmi Park. She's a North Korean defector who she speaks about this. And when you're born in North Korea, your future's for you. If your parents, however your parents were brought up in their social standing within the society, that's where you're going to be. And this kind of implements the same type of system, just a little bit differently because it's a little bit more technologically advanced, that instead of just having your social status, you have your social credit score, and that will be then portrayed onto your family members. So not only is it going to hinder the life that you live, it's going to hinder the life of your children. And then, like I was just kind of pointing out before, how do you lift yourself up and get out of that situation when you can't do everyday life things? Not because you don't have the money or the cash to rent a car or to buy a plane ticket, but because your credit score and the government deemed you unworthy of being able to obtain these purchases or these tools in order to better your life. So they totally crumble the ability for upward mobility in a community or in a country. So like in America, we have upward mobility. Now there's things that need to be worked on, in my opinion, smaller government, but we're able to, the underdog, we love an underdog story. We love someone coming from nothing and being able to make themselves into something. Well, if your social credit score, for one, if your parents' social credit score is going to affect you, and then if you make some poor decisions, whether financially or behaviorally, and then that deters you from having the opportunity to do anything, you're fucked. So this is scary stuff. And this is going on in China, and look what's going on in Australia, and look what's going on today. Let's think a little bit farther into the future than tomorrow, okay? Use your brains. You have some. So they say that you have the ability you have a 10-day window period to fight and appeal against these things, but good luck. And then it goes on to say that citizens with good social credit can also get discounts on energy bills, rent things without deposits, and get better interest rates at banks. So if you obey the government and you act how the government thinks that you should act and that you are trustworthy as far as the government goes, then you can actually get incentives. And then you'll live a more convenient life. But if you speak out against the government, or if you do things that the government doesn't want you to do, then you are unfit, you are untrustworthy, and you are subhuman. And this is really stuff that's going on that we really need to pay attention to and to think about. Whether it's tracking people on their app or having the police, police the streets as far as when you can be outside or when you can operate your business. Because when these mandates and these laws or these government, something's facilitated from the government, it is the police and other government officials that then have to facilitate it, which will have more citizenry and police confrontations. And of course, I would hope the police would not go forward with these mandates and these total infringements on our rights. But within every institution that has power, there is corruption and there's bad people. So we need to think about these things. The government does not have the authority to do these things. Read the Bill of Rights and obviously the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence and know what our founding fathers were going through and their thought process and why they knew it was important to limit the power of government and stop looking to the government to solve all your problems. Because for one, they're unable to, and they're not going to solve your problems. They're going to just take your freedoms. So I just found this stuff very interesting. It worries me. I'm worried about the state of other countries as well as America. I'm very worried about the influence that the Chinese Communist Party has, not only in their own country, but over all the countries, and the amount of financial investment and cop-outs that just look at dollar signs, whether it be companies or influencers or professional athletes, and they're compromised by China. And that people are just so willingly and don't even think twice about giving up their freedoms and their liberties and their data and their privacy. They don't even think twice because they are somehow convinced that maybe the government is really looking out for their best interest. And part of the reason is because they don't know anything. They don't read history. They're not interested in human psychology, and they're just obsessed with convenience. They're obsessed with convenience and cheap. And it's really costing us our freedoms, liberties, and the ability to live our life. So I wanted to speak about that today. Praying for Australia. If you're in Australia and you listen to read this, I hope you guys band together and are able to stand up for yourselves. And for us here in America, it's time to be courageous, to be brave, to stand up for what you believe in, to say no. If they tell you to a mask mandate, I was at the store the other day. I was at Meijer. And Illinois, the communist state of Illinois, I will be moving soon, thank God, reinstituted mask mandates. And I was the only one in Meijer who didn't wear a mask. I'm not wearing a mask. I'm done playing these games. And I had someone in line, they were wearing their mask and they took it off and they're like, has anyone said anything to you? And I was like, no. And they're like, oh, I'm like, I don't even like masks. Like, I'm not a mask person. I shouldn't be wearing it, but I thought we just had to wear it again. And I don't know. She's like, you're really brave. And I thought to myself, and I'm like, if I'm brave for not wearing a mask, a piece of cloth over my face, boy, are we in trouble. You know what's brave? Our founding fathers were brave going up against the largest world military at the time. They were brave. You know who was brave? The people who fought in World War II. You know who was brave? The people who marched for the civil rights. Those people are brave. Me not wearing a mask because what? The mask police is going to come yell at me or someone's going to kick me out of my store? It's time for you guys to read about brave people, and hopefully bravery begets bravery and you find some courage within yourself, because the real pandemic in this day and age isn't COVID, although the virus is real. It's the lack of courage. So I hope that you found this information interesting and informative. I definitely would take it upon yourself to do some more research yourself, and I would definitely take it upon yourself to read about historical figures that were courageous and made a difference. Learn about the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, and learn about history, because it's fascinating. Humans are fascinating. History is fascinating. And we are in a time that we need all the courage and the bravery that we can get. So if you found any value off this, please consider liking, sharing, subscribing, sharing with your friends and family. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Thank you for joining me. God bless, and take care.